Hello and welcome to Planned Abortions 101, where I review all the new maps all the time playable on Mythical Gaming. That's Mythical Gaming. Link in the description. So getting into the updates, bhop_alley got an update, but it didn't really fix anything, so now that I've wasted 10 seconds of your time, let's get into the fresh new maps that came out this week. bhop_stones was the first one to come out this week, and it was created by Gamebanana. Texture-wise, the map is simplistic and very appealing. I really like the dark gray floor textures and the white cubed walls. They complement each other nicely, and the map's structure looks grandiose when illuminated by the sunset skybox. The moving open box-like designs on the booster blocks were also a very clever design choice. As for the gameplay, this map is a strafe map that gives you a fair amount of room to strafe about the map, as well as some fun choices that benefit both stronger players while still being inclusive to newer bhoppers. The map has some great elevation changes throughout, and some really good obstacles. There's also a neat little skip towards the end that saves just a couple of jumps, but along with that skip comes an invisible wall, which can be a bit annoying to traverse. Also, the triggers at the last boost platform are a bit too high and will set you back. That is, unless you pull back or are going slow enough not to clip the bottom of the triggers, which you can't see. All that in mind, this is a very fun map with a really fun and memorable tower climb ending to it. It took me about 53 seconds to beat, and it's going to get a strong 9 out of 11. So good job to Gamebanana, but we're off to the next map. BKZ_elements is a map that was created by Rem, and because the title being BKZ instead of bhop, you should know what to expect. It's going to be a mix of bhop and KZ, so needless to say, if you aren't a fan of KZ stuff, like forced long jumps and ladder strafes, then this isn't likely going to be the map for you. That said, texture and color-wise, this map is incredibly vibrant, colorful, and exciting. The map is made up of 5 stages, each with a really great color scheme and cool spiral designs mixed throughout. As for the gameplay, this map is very good. The stage layouts and designs are unique and interesting, and so are all the different types of obstacles used. I especially like that some stages provide alternate routes, and the map really goes out of its way to provide a different experience in terms of layout and obstacles for each level. As for the flaws, on the first stage I didn't really like that the map requires pre-speeding in order to make this jump. I think it would be less of a nuisance if there was just a speed boost arrow or a low grab boost pad instead, because as it is, it's just an annoying extension of time that doesn't really add anything special or interesting to the map, just adds a couple of jumps. Also, on the final stage where there's a series of long jumps in a row, it feels really tedious and unnecessary to have to complete several long jumps one after another in scaling difficulty. I feel like it would have accomplished the same thing with just the 250, 5 into the 260, or even just the 260 long jump, instead of having to do them one after another. And on that note, the last bit felt really tacked on, like it didn't need to be there. And because it is there, the ending just sort of feels awkward. I think that if there was more KZ thrown throughout the map, instead of just added on at the end, I would have felt a bit better about the map. Either way though, the map is still pretty good. It took me about 5 minutes and 15 seconds, but I'm pretty rusty on my ladder strafes, and I'm pretty sure less than half my time is even possible. So, good job to Rem, and despite some of the shortcomings of this map, I still think that it's worth a strong 8 out of 11. Which brings us to map number 3, bhop_100 emoji, which was created by Pappy and ported by Gamebanana. So really quickly, I'd like to just mention that these zone markers don't line up, and while that does annoy the OCD in me, it won't really affect the score of the map. The map's textures are good for the most part, though on the last stage, the glowing red light mixed with the black block tops against the black floor made it difficult to tell what is supposed to be a crouch jump, and that is probably my biggest issue with this map. Aside from that, the layout is good, and it has some unique and interesting obstacles that are all accentuated by the wide open rooms, and that gives you plenty of space to do what you gotta do. So the map for the most part is pretty straightforward, though there are a couple of confusing hiccups along the way. The block types are all varied and exciting, the potential for route optimizations are plentiful, and the map as a whole is quite fun. It took me a little over a minute and 26 seconds to beat, with a couple of smallish fails here and there, and it's gonna get a light 8 out of 11. So good job to Pappy and to Gamebanana for the port, And let's move along to bhop_dungeon, created by Zacklemore. This map is meant to be a dungeon-themed map, but it delves into other settings as well, all of which contrast each other nicely and work fairly well overall. I especially liked the quick style change from the vent-like KZ room into the black glassy surf room. In terms of gameplay, the map is very well designed with some really fun obstacles and a fun change of pace in the form of a KZ-centered room. The different layouts were all enjoyable and the pathways were fairly unique, for the most part. But every map has its flaws, and this one is no exception. On the glass surf stage, there's a really odd invisible wall that when you hit, it causes you to fail, and then you get triggered back a stage. Also, the booster that propels you forward doesn't give you enough speed unless you pre-speed before jumping on it, all while trying to avoid the previously mentioned invisible wall. That said, none of this really matters on the current version of this map because of the massive skip. After the first boosters, you can surf on the rocks and then onto the side of the wall and then jump over the trigger wall that's supposed to trigger you back, and then you can just run and jump right into the end zone. I have show triggers enabled so that way you can see exactly what I mean. Shout out to Cayman for finding the skip. Without him, I wouldn't be able to bring this to you, and hopefully this map gets patched. So, with that skip, the map took me about 26 seconds on what would have otherwise been about a 2 to 3 minute map, and as it stands now, I think the map deserves a light 6, but if Zacklemore fixes some of this stuff, then the map will certainly be better. So, onwards to map number 5. bhop_Coeva is a map that was created by Flashy and is a short desert strafe map. The visuals on the map are appealing but simple, and the theme is fairly fun. As for the gameplay, the layout is about as fun and engaging as a 14.5-second map can be. I like the elevation changes and that you can interact with the scenery by jumping on the crates. I also really enjoyed the tunnel and the different shapes and angles and textures used on the blocks to make the map feel more exciting. Unfortunately, my enjoyment of the map was short-lived because this is only a 14-second long map. So, check this one out if you're into really short strafe maps, but as for me, I'm giving this one a medium 7. So, good job to Flashy, but we gotta keep moving. So map number 6 was bhop_coal_mines and is a mine-themed map created by Violet. This map has a brown and gray color scheme that doesn't really do too much, it's just okay, and it's lit up with some nice torches. As for the gameplay, this would be a great tier 1 map for a really starting off beginner type player, but I'm not exactly a beginner, and because of that I didn't really find this 14-second long map appealing. Unlike Coeva though, this map is entirely flat, made up of square blocks with no real obstacles or anything else for that matter. The map was very short, fairly boring, but it would be good for a first-time bhopper to learn on. So, because of that, I'll give it a light 5. And then power forward into map number 7, which was bhop_look, created by XD Mendy and ported by Elzy. Texture-wise, this one is a simple dev texture map that starts out fairly bland, but builds into a cool spacey ending. I'd also like to mention that the tree models were a pretty cool addition to the map, making it feel a little less monotonous. Separating the handy-capable Gamebanana screeching from my map review, let's get into the way that the map plays. This map is fairly run-of-the-mill in terms of layout. There's nothing too exciting going on, and it's mostly just going up while turning right around some large pillars. The map isn't just a straight line, though it isn't exactly interesting, at least not until the ending spiral with a lowering block elevation into the end zone, which is pretty cool actually. As for the route optimizations, the map is limited to testing which blocks can and can't be crouch jumped. Also, the floor is improperly triggered, which allows you to jump on it at some points and not others, which is kind of inconsistent. So overall, I wouldn't necessarily call this map bad, it's just not really good either. It's a bit on the boring side. And because of that, it's going to get a very light 6 out of 11. The map took me a touch under 50 seconds to beat, so nice try to you guys. And next map. bhop_epoch was created by PCPie, and this one has a cool space theme combined with an excellent color scheme and some great wood textures that suit the map perfectly. Also, the skybox used in this map is really fantastic. As for the gameplay, you start out needing to pre-speed some booster pads, which I must admit did get annoying pretty quickly for the same reason that I took umbrage with on BKZ Elements. But it was a very unique startup, and I really do appreciate it when people go out of their way to try new things, so good on you for that. Anyways, once you get the boost down, it's high-flying action all the way through, and once again, PC Pie shows that he really knows what he's doing when it comes to creating unique, fun, addicting maps. He gives you tons of room to strafe, has diverse blocks with all kinds of options for route building, a great winding layout, and a cheeky little skip towards the end. The map feels exciting and fun pretty much the whole way through. The map took me about 43.5 seconds, but you can watch both Dream and Rez run it in about 10 seconds faster on their respective channels. Links in the description. So I think that this is a very good map. It's a good job, PC Pie. I'm giving this a 9 out of 11. And that takes us off to map number 9. bhop_lost is LZ's latest map to stir up some juicy forum drama, and is based off the Dear Esther style and was inspired by bhop_elate. Getting into the gameplay, the map is a strafe map, so it gives you some decent space to strafe around, and angled blocks were a nice touch as well. Unfortunately, though, I found the gameplay to be a little bit too simplistic. All the blocks were simple squares, and there was no real obstacles throughout the map. Though, there was a cool skip that can be taken by jumping on the tops of the rocks. Also, the rocky walls are clipped a little bit too far out, and at some points you can catch yourself on them, even if you don't actually hit the rock wall. Speaking of clipping, there is some inconsistency in that most of the objects aren't clipped, but there are a couple of light posts that are. I think it would have been better if all the scenery were interactable, but my overall stance on it is that when clipping scenery, it should be either clip everything or don't clip any of it. So, overall, I think the map isn't bad. I think it's just not the greatest either. It's somewhere in between. The map took me a touch over 28 seconds, but you can watch Creator do it much faster, and credit to him for finding the rock skip. He also ran Coeva and another booster map, so check that out in the description. As for Lost, I'll give it a light 6 and a nice try. I'm sure after an update, it'll probably get bumped up to a 7. Which brings us over to bhop_ladder, created by Snooper, which has already received an update, so I'll get through it quickly. This map has the same simple but appealing Snooper style as per usual, but gameplay is what I want to talk about. The map is really interesting setup where you have to work your way up the rungs by completing different challenges before you get to the booster, which brings you up and over into the next checkpoint, all of which is interesting and well designed, though fairly short, and oftentimes very easy. The biggest issue with the map is the boosters. Sometimes they boost you enough to skip the section, sometimes they boost you the right amount, and sometimes they just don't boost you at all. Unfortunately, because of this, the gameplay does suffer a little bit. Though not so much that it isn't a little bit fun. This map took me around 34.5 seconds to complete, and it gets a strong 5. But it already has been updated, so this rating should be taken with a pillar of salt. And then we slink into the final map of the week, bhop_arid, which was created by Violet. Texture-wise, this one is a basic sandstone map with a very soft and inviting color scheme, and the use of torches also add a feeling of warmth to the map. As for the gameplay, this map is a very fun, mildly technical strafe map with a fun layout that allows for tons of optimizations and jump cuts. The obstacles, which are mostly made up of glass walls, are very creatively designed and placed, giving the map a fresh feeling to it. As for the negatives, all the blocks are square-centric, but all in all, there really isn't too much to say about this map, other than it's a 33-second-ish map that was pretty fun and didn't really have too much in terms of flaws. That said, there's still plenty of room to improve, as the map didn't really do anything too unique to try to stand out in any way. But still, good job, Violet. This one gets a strong 8 out of 11, and that is all the time that I have for this week's episode of the bhop Map Review, so make sure to leave a like if you like, comment and subscribe, send me your money through PayPal, link in the description, follow me on Twitter at TMacDaGoon, where I've been too lazy to post the past couple of days, but I'll get something up there soon. So, you should also check out my gaming channel, TMacDaGoon Games, for other games and talking, and don't forget to check out other people's videos that I mentioned. Everything and more is in the description, but that's gonna do it for this week's episode. So, it's me, TMacDaGoon, coming in with a killing spree. Oh man, he is objectively the best. The best. TMacDaGoon signing out, baby!